and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN FM, where each week is an amazing exploration into the many facets of love, oneness, and our connection to the human spirit. I'm Lisa LeRose, and I'm joined by the most incredible co-host, Michael J. Russ. I want to say welcome, Michael, and I have a great big question for you after that.
Oh, yeah, I love it when you have questions for me. Go ahead, shoot.
So on last week's episode, we spoke about once, the idea of waiting for things to begin. So what is the life you really want? The most authentic, vibrant version of your story starts the moment you stop waiting for it. And I was inspired to ask you that question because I read a quote this morning that said, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you so that you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. And what I've noticed is that so many of us seem to be waiting. We're waiting for permission to rest, to change, to begin something new, to speak up, to create, to really love ourselves, to finally be who we actually are. It's sort of like we're standing on the edge of the water looking out at the horizon, waiting for some kind of signal that's supposed to tell us it's okay. It's okay to jump in. But really, there is no signal. The truth is that no one was ever meant to hand you permission. Life isn't sitting around waiting for you to be worthy enough. Life is waiting for you to be willing enough. And so I thought it would be fun if we could explore, how do you stop waiting? How do you start unbecoming so that you can be the person that you were meant to be? And what happens when you finally give yourself that permission? And I thought that it would be fun if we could speak about that. If we could break the habit of looking for permission to achieve and to explore what is the truth of what we're meant to be here to do, that unbecoming. Because I think so many people are waiting for permission to really be who they truly are, their true authentic self. And how do we kind of reclaim that sovereignty? So I thought, yeah, it'd be fun to speak about why we need to stop waiting and start unbecoming.
Get going. Yeah, I love it. It's a subject with a lot of legs because, wow, there's so many, as human beings, we're highly suggestive. So from the point where we're born out of love and kindness and joy and compassion and curiosity, we are somehow conditioned to let go of those things. The older we get, the more we're conditioned to let go of them, programmed to say goodbye to the curiosity, the creativity, the inspiration, moving through life with those things instead of, so you can conform, to being what somebody else, society or otherwise, wants you to be. And so this has led to a lot of people who are lost and going through a process of rediscovery as they get older. And it's interesting because, you and I have both gone through our process of discovery. It's been 40 years for me of discovering who I am as an authentic person and, that authentic me that I was meant to be, and moving in a direction on a daily basis that is aligned with that authenticity. And it's, for me, I know it's been, it took a profession that I was interested in order to expand my movement into who I was. And some people never, haven't reached that point yet, or they've misinterpreted the signs of the actions that have occurred to them in life and not really gone into a rediscovery, but a victimization, into victim consciousness. And so I see even sometimes the littlest things as my ability to, as an opportunity, I should say, to further explore who I am based on how I feel about what's going on, and examining my beliefs and my perceptions about things that have made me feel uncomfortable. and looking to say, okay, so what does it mean? What has to happen here for me to feel comfortable with this? What's the belief driving this? What's the perception I have? And how can I shift that to feel and think differently? And in this day and age, a lot of people actually are waking up to the realization that they've been programmed to be one way or the other, and it's led to unhappiness. It's led to the opposite of joy and love and compassion and kindness. It's completely so far to the opposite, and they really want to get back. And if our listeners are in that state, or if you're in a state of rediscovering, permission is huge, because we have been trained to look to our external world for permission, to allow ourselves to love ourselves, right? Because everybody out there wants to say, hey, I've got the key to loving yourself, and you go do that thing, and it's not really it, and it doesn't really require you to go out and buy anything. You don't need to have your identity wrapped up in somebody else's identity in order to feel good about yourself. That, after a while, becomes hollow, because you're not tapping into the authentic you. The authentic you is inspired, creative, curious, loving, and of the type of person who is curious about life itself and about what it means to love yourself, and moving in that direction. And it's interesting because I know you and I we know we have guidance. We know we have guides. And Carol Collins is on once a month talking about, and her guides actually put forth ideas like this and concepts that help us, I should say, and help you and help me and help our listeners further define our own authenticity. And that's really it. You've got to give yourself permission to do that, to say, look, I'm a sovereign being. That means I have the right to choose what goes in and out of my body, what goes in and out of my mind, how I engage with the external world. And my connection is something greater than myself. My connection to my guides, or anything spiritual, or whatever you want to call it. And non-physical beings, the non-physical world, how I engage with that. And so when I first became alert and aware that I was allowing something in my external world to dictate how I felt, it was an eye-opening experience, because the realization of that forced me to quickly move away from that, to say, look, okay, I'm the one here. I'm the person who has the right to decide what I think and how I feel, and to gauge that all throughout my day, and to recognize when I'm giving up my sovereignty, abdicating my right to control how I feel. Because quite frankly, the first thing that, in my view, we're taught as human beings when we're younger is that your external world is how you interact with your external world is incredibly important, and that you need to pay attention to that. You need to make sure that you're in alignment with your external world, and that's to conform. Can't have a bunch of kids running around school doing anything that they want to do. They won't learn anything, at least anything that you want them to remember and to regurgitate on a test. It's more like, it's funny because we're in kindergarten and we're allowed to be who we are, be creative, be our authentic selves, discover who we are in a way at that age, and to the extent that we can. And then you go to first grade and you're told, no, you can't do that anymore. We have to sit in these seats. We have to conform. We have to have our pens and our paper, and we have to pay attention, and we have to learn these things. And then there's going to be a test at the end. You go, test? What test? We never had tests before. As if you could speak that way when you're in first grade. But the realization is shocking. All of a sudden now we have to conform, and then for the next 17 years you're conforming, or however long it is that you're in school, you're conforming. So wow, when do you actually have the opportunity to understand that you're the one who gives yourself permission to love yourself and to be a sovereign being, permission to feel the way you want to feel and control that, every aspect of that. It's a wild thing, man. The realization can hit you hard, or it can be the most elating thing that you could possibly feel.
Right.
I know that, I don't know when your discovery of your sovereignty came to pass, but I'm sure it was exciting for you.
I think, Michael, it's interesting because as you were speaking, there's so many things that I want to touch on, and you have such a gift at unlocking memories in my mind when we speak. I just want to thank you because
You're welcome.
Truly, because I started thinking about Rudolf Steiner and his approach to learning, which is more of a holistic, child-centered system where you focus on the head, the heart, and the hands. And when I was very young, I went to a school called the School for the Allied Arts. It was the Calgary Creative School. And so I started there at 3, and it was all about that same approach. It wasn't until I entered first grade, which I went to Catholic school in first grade, that it was all of a sudden very regimented. Right? Yeah. So I went from being in this environment where we did drama and music and art, and we had French class, and it was in a museum, so we spent time around all of these native artifacts and learning about history and the world through the senses. So then first grade, you're put into a class and you're sitting in your seat, but then we moved. So I didn't really get a lot of that ingraining that perhaps a lot of other children did. And we moved pretty much every year or 2 years. So it was always a fresh environment. And although I did have more Catholic education, then when we moved back to Calgary, I went to a school that was an open area classroom, which was a completely different idea. And there were no walls. There was no walls. And I had a teacher, Mrs. Yetkovic. She was just an amazing Jamaican woman. And she was so inspiring. She had the most beautiful smile, and she just radiated and lit up a room. And when we had show and tell, she allowed us to do whatever we wanted to bring in. I brought in a Kiss album, and she let me play a bunch of songs off of it. It was just like, what is this, But it's interesting because as my journey evolved, and then when we moved to Pittsburgh, and it was funny, when you were speaking, it made me think about these permissions, this permit, like who is the permit giver? Because we have this idea that there is this invisible authority that has to give us permission. And when I moved to Pittsburgh, it was the end of the year at the 8th grade. I had just a few more months. And it came time for gym, and I was told that I had to buy a gym suit. And I was looking at the boys, and the boys just got to wear a T-shirt and shorts, and the girls had to wear these awful jumpers that were polyester that zipped up the front. And I thought, no, I will wear shorts and a T-shirt. And I didn't ask for permission. That's what I showed up for gym class in. And I had to go to the principal's office. And that was probably the first time that I asserted my authority in saying, no, by my sovereignty, that I'm not going to be in alignment. And actually, that was the last year that they made the girls wear that. I never quite understood it because the boys got to wear T-shirts and shorts, and it was not that way. But I most of the time I've always been very agreeable, and I do understand there are these invisible authorities that we try to please, and many of us, it's always about pleasing and doing things what society wants. And I'm not saying you have to be a rebel, but I think that it's okay to understand that the teachers even anchor this in. The divine moves through us, and we are in truly remarkable beings. We all come here with a different mission, and we don't need to wait for permission to allow the universe to say, you know what, you are the authority of your own life. Your power is here. You don't have to go somewhere to get it. You can claim that. And I think it's truly a wonderful thing. So thank you for that little trip down memory lane, because I haven't thought about those horrid jumpsuits in a long time. I don't even know if I could dig one up.
I'm glad I could help you remember that, the horrid jumpsuits. You know, it's interesting what you're saying about school. I was thinking about the fact that we had similar, and we grew up in similar ways, which is, I left every 2 years till I was 15. We left and went to a different school. And when we went to Colorado, it was the first time that I had access. We moved into a community that had a brand new school, built a house there. Dad thought he was going to retire there, and that we would retire there a couple of years later. Actually, about 5 years later, and the school was absolutely brand new. It was called Grant Elementary, Ulysses S. Grant Elementary. I remember that distinctly. And I was one of three out of hundreds of students. I was one of three chosen for photography class. The photography club, actually, not class. It was a club, and there were three of us, and we learned how to take pictures in black and white, how to develop I was 11 years old at the time.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we got to learn how to develop pictures, and we went out to Garden of the Gods, and which is a place a beautiful place in Colorado Springs, and we took photographs of us collectively and came back, and we'd do these little trips. And it wasn't open. It was a whole new concept of learning where there were no classrooms. There were maybe just dividers that created a particular space, but basically you had all the students, and we sat on the floor. We didn't sit in desks. We sat on the floor.
You didn't? Wow.
Oh, yeah. We didn't have desks. And so it was really cool. It brought together a lot of creative teachers and a lot of creative thought, too. It was a really amazing couple of years. And then I remember that there were some other schools, and we went overseas for a couple, 3 years. And we had the school, the American school that we went to was an old three-story tobacco warehouse. They had converted it into actually it's 4 stories, and they converted it into a school that had a central stairwell. And then from that, you went off into various rooms, and they created classrooms out of it. And it was really, really, really cool. We had teachers there are teaching programs around the world where you can get together with the U.S. Customs, U.S. government, and you can apply to go teach in a foreign country, teach U.S. students at these schools, at these international schools and otherwise. But it was really, really fun. The teachers were lively. We had wood shop, we had metal shop, we had automotive shop, we had home economics, and all of these things that allows you to discover what you preferred and what you didn't prefer, which turns out to be the key to just about everything, is to being happy somewhat, is when things happen that you don't prefer, the takeaway, the positive takeaway is always that now at least what you don't prefer. That's a good thing, because then you can make a choice to go do something that you do prefer. So the contrast between what you do and don't prefer is incredibly important, and you find people getting caught up in the drama of blame and victimization when they're literally forced to do something that they don't like. And I'm like, yeah, thank you very much. At least I know this is what I want to do. I'm not a person who's working on an automobile. I did some wood shop, loved it, had a great time. I said, I prefer this. And, I have saws and tools now here to do things later in life. We had music. Obviously, I was a drummer at that time, so I joined the band in every school I was with. I didn't do any marching or anything, but there was a band there. But these creative outlets are part of helping us to determine who we are, what our authentic self is, what we do and don't prefer, what we have a penchant for, what we have a knack for, so to speak, what we love doing, what elicits joy and is fun for us and makes us feel good about ourselves. That's what it's about. I took piano lessons. It wasn't for me. Okay, I can tell you that. It wasn't for me. And I have very dexterous fingers, but not for that, right? And I admire people who are good at that. My brother was great at the guitar, and I admire him for learning in a very short period of time. In a cruise, from a 21-day cruise, he learned how to play the guitar. And so, he's never looked back, and he still plays today and has a band in West Hollywood. So you discover who you are by going out and trying different things, and you don't need permission to do that. I realize that if you're not 18 yet, you have to say, well, in some way you have to ask, can I go do this, if you didn't have a source of revenue, income. I had a source of revenue when I was 12. I was playing in bands already, and my parents didn't have to give us a dime after that. There was no, hey, can I have a couple bucks to go? No, we were making really good money. So, and in those days, things were very inexpensive. And so I had money to buy things, to take trips, to do whatever as a 12, 13, and 14-year-old. Not everybody's like that. However, life is about discovery. And that discovery, exposing yourself to different things, is how you figure out who you are, figure out what resonates with you. And with the exception, again, of parents, and you may not have parents who really agree with you going off and trying something. They may have their own ideas about what you should and shouldn't be doing. Hence the whole concept, the book about tiger moms, right? In Asia, it's kind of a different culture. Women do things and men do things. And in India, same thing. Bangladesh and some of these other cultures. And in Arab culture, same thing. Middle Eastern culture, you have these outdated concepts of what men and women should be and do. And so the question is, if you're in one of those cultures and listening to this program, you have to weigh the consequences of making a choice and whether or not that choice is going to be in alignment with you being a sovereign after someone discovers that you're doing it. Because I'm going to force you to go do something. I mean, there are all kinds of challenges that you have out there. And so I've lived in Middle Eastern countries, and at the time, things were, women could do things in the 70s, and there are certain countries where it was more strict. And in Asia, again, same thing. There are outmoded ideas and concepts. We know that. We have to kind of live and work within them, move within them in a way that helps us to remain free and able to do whatever it is that we want to do. But here's the thing. No one can stop you from the thoughts and feelings that you have. No one has a right to make you feel one way or another, and no one has the right to make you think or believe one thing or another. You have the right. That's a personal right. That's part of your own sovereignty. So you can go along with the program until at some particular point, like I did. I grew up in a household that was Protestant, and I followed through with that until I could make my own choices. And then I chose not to. So did my brother, so did my sister. So sometimes you have to roll, and when you're going with the flow of what you're being told to do when you're younger and you don't have the right, your own 100% sovereignty, it's a matter of then, again, as I said, looking at preferences. I prefer this, I don't prefer that. Kind of bookmark that, put that in your memory banks. I prefer this, I don't prefer that. So when you have the right to choose, you can then move along the lines of what does bring you joy, what is fun for you. And that's really all we can say. We're not telling people that to necessarily break the law or anything, or go against your family, but you along the way to discover and then continue to rediscover. And I know from understanding music later in life, I come to understand that playing music and being a drummer wasn't about being a professional drummer or a studio drummer. It was about being comfortable in front of people, because when I speak, the fact that I played drums in front of large crowds when I was 7 and 8 and on in my life made me comfortable in front of large groups of people. And to me, it was fun. To some people who didn't have that experience when they were younger or at some point in their lives, it's terrifying, right? So it's you're paying attention to what lights your fire, so to speak, what puts a smile on your face is really, really important. And at some point, you give yourself permission to move down that road and discover who the heck you are outside of society norms. And hopefully many more people do that, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right, Michael, and it's about you don't have to buck the system, so to speak, and create waves, but it is about trusting your inner knowing. So if somebody's pushing you to become a doctor, but you really have a passion for writing, and you can say, I don't feel that is part of my path. And you don't have to look outside for validation. I think as we start to cultivate that inner knowing, we no longer have to ask for approval, or the desire to fit in falls away, and we don't have to feel like we're going to be rejected or suppress different parts of ourselves in whatever way that we want to express it. And you said something very interesting. You said something about lighting you up. And both you and I read Shaman Durek's book, and he speaks about the system that trains us to be pleasers. And he reminded us in that book that our ancestors and spirits don't want us to ask for permission to claim your sovereignty, not even to reclaim it, to claim your sovereignty. And he uses the term living a lit life. And there were lots of things in that book that really, I'm sure, ruffled a lot of people's feathers, because he's very open and very honest and very true about his path. And he was taught to suppress his gifts in his family. It was not accepted. And so every time that he would try to acknowledge this is part of who I am, it was pushed down, it was pushed down, it pushed down. And his journey, it was really amazing. And I think that he inspired a lot of people. I know I found so many golden nuggets of wisdom. And I think in so many ways, I think the idea is there's a difference between permission and willingness. There is when we're waiting for permission, we're sort of in the waiting room, whether I'm in the principal's office or whatever. And I'm waiting for that to be open. But I have to be willing to see what is beyond that door. And life is like that. I mean, it's stimulus response. And we respond rather than react. And you and I have been getting messages about that through so many different videos and so many things that we tune into. And I believe that as we show that willingness, we will align ourselves to what it is that we're meant to follow. It's sort of like we have a clear sign that, okay, it's now your time. Here you are. And it's just aligning ourselves. I think that that's part of it too. Aligning ourselves in what we feel is a big yes. In Sarah Landon's book, and she uses I love it because she says you don't make a choice until it's choiceless, which might seem like an oxymoron. But when your whole body says, hell yeah, you feel it. And I know for myself, sometimes on the fence, I wibble wobble, maybe do I want to do this, do I want to do that? No. But when I get something that's a heck yeah, oh yeah, there's nothing that's going to stop me from pursuing that. I'm just full on in. And I'm,
excited, passionate about it. Yeah, excited about it, passionate about it. You're just raring to go. And like I said in our previous podcast about, how I go about doing things, I'm like a butterfly throughout the day, flittering between one thing that excites me and then another that excites me. I don't wake up in the morning saying to myself, in many cases, I'm going to go upstairs and put the finishing touches on that book, or I'm going to do this. I have, as I like to say, I got rice to put in bowls in the morning, just like you do. You've got a cat that wants to be fed, and its box needs to be cleaned, and it wants some love. And you got a corgi that wants to play because it's been sleeping for 8 hours, and it wants you to come out and play with it. And so you, instead of going through the angst of, I can't do that right now, I don't want to, I got to go do this thing, I said, you know what, let's not get into that. Let's just say, I'm sitting aside. You want to play? We'll play now. We'll go out and we'll play. And I know exactly what's going to light his little fire, and I go do that thing. And it's just fun then to just see what he does and how he reacts and how his personality is continuing to develop. And then there's going to the barn this morning, go take care of the horse. It's every other day. And so how can I make that fun? And how can I go out there and enjoy the time? We go get a coffee. It's a ritual. We bring the corgi along. And now the fun of it is allowing the corgi to get out of the car on his own without a leash, and to get back in the car on his own without a leash, and to walk around much of the property without a leash now, because he's got some structure to his life, because a puppy, oh my gosh, you'd be chasing him into the woods. So basically, it's like it's a stepping, you're taking stepping stones to get across this river of life, and as I like to call it. And so and I may not get to work until 11 o'clock. I may not get to work at 11 o'clock. And it's okay with me, because I'm going to work till about 4:30 or 5 doing something, whatever comes to mind, whatever meets my fancy. I have that choice, though. And I've worked in an office before where I didn't have the choice. I had to be there at 8 o'clock for meetings, and then I had meetings at lunch and sometimes in the afternoon. And I did that for basically 20 years, almost 20 years. And so I prefer not to do that anymore. I've learned that my preference is to be floating like a butterfly from one thing to another, whatever excites me at the moment. And it's so much fun. The day goes by, everybody's happy. Everybody gets the rice in their bowl, and I put it in mine, right? So all along the way. And then every once in a while, Corgi comes up into the office. I'm deep into something, and he's like, hey, you've been up here a while. And I'm like, you're right. Let me go outside for 20 minutes and lay on the sunbed and watch you flit around the yard and chase lizards and chase birds and bark at squirrels. Okay, so it's fun just to sit there and get some sun and just watch him flitter around, and then I come back and I jump back into the same thing. Those kinds of breaks, many times we don't give ourselves. We're knee deep in something, and we're bent on finishing it. We're bent on just plowing right through it to get it done, because, I don't know, there's some kind of time frame or deadline or whatever. My point is, it's not someone else's deadline. It's the deadline you've agreed based on the choices that you've made. You chose to work there. You chose to be subjected to that deadline, and you better have fun with it, because you made that choice. Right? Don't complain if you're in a situation where you've got tight deadlines and you're stressed out about it or overwhelmed, when that was a choice that you made. You can make a different choice. That's your sovereign right, is to make a different choice. Recognize what you prefer. If you don't prefer that kind of pressure, then find something that doesn't have that kind of pressure, that actually involves your authentic skills. You're going to be, it's like, what? Who was it that said that? I'm pretty sure it was Bashar that had said it, and I know Abraham also says the same thing. A lot of the people that we listen to, you and I, on YouTube and other places, and I believe even the teachers said something along the similar lines, is that it's your life. You make the choices that you make. After a certain point of your indoctrination through school and all of that kind of stuff, you pretty much understand what you do and don't like. And at some particular point, you'll wake up. And you will be asking yourself, what do I want to do with my life? And hopefully up to that particular point, you've actually engaged in some things that have excited you. I know somebody who always had a penchant for wanting to dance. They were always interested in dancing. And this particular person who is also a restaurant GM, twice a week, if not 3 times a week, goes to a dance studio and teaches other people how to dance.
That's fantastic.
And I just found this out. I'm going, when do you have time? And she works from home, and she's got a daughter that's about 7, and so she's involved. She's a happy camper. She loves the work that she does, and the aspects of her work that she doesn't like, she literally delegates. She finds other people to do that for her. She brings in other people who are passionate about doing that sort of thing. And this is the key to enjoying life. I don't have to mow the lawn because I can pay someone to do it. That time is incredibly valuable for me. So I don't have to go out once a week to mow my lawn. I stopped doing it when I had a lower back problem about 35 years ago. But the idea of this is really the odd thing, I used to love riding a 0-turn mower and mowing 4 acres. I used to love it when I did it. It was such a great thing to be driving around a 0-turn mower, man. That thing goes around in circles and, goes in every which way. And I had fun doing it. I was out in the hot sun, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, spending 4 hours mowing 4 acres, right? So, I made a love affair out of that too. It wasn't really a chore. Now someone gets paid to do it, but while I did it, it was fun. And we move on. We move on to discover other things, and it's the joy of living. To me, that's the joy of living. Is being able to say, oh, that interests me, and then you go do that thing, and you meet some great people who also have an interest in it, and you make connections. And however long those connections last, however long you're involved or engaged in that particular thing that you've chosen to go do, doesn't matter. You don't get all into that. You just go do it as long as you want to do it. When it fails to excite you or impassion you, you move on to something else. That's all. Living life.
Right. And you don't feel guilty about it. And I think that's the biggest thing, and that's where we need to give ourselves permission. You give yourself permission to rest. You give yourself permission to create. You give yourself permission to play with the dog. It is all about that. And oftentimes we feel guilty when we are just being in a state of meditation or whatever it is that isn't a doing action, because we feel that we need a special permission to rest. If I sometimes, last night I didn't go to bed till 5:30 in the morning. If I'm tired later, I will give myself permission to take a nap. Maybe an hour, maybe 15 minutes, whatever it is, and then I'll be ready to go. But oftentimes we have, I think, been conditioned to believe that our existence must be justified by productivity. What did you do today? What did you achieve? Rather than just being. And that's why I really love that quote at the beginning of that I read, because it's not about that doing. It's not about that becoming anything. It's about unbecoming, so you can be who you are meant to be. And I think a lot of times that's really where we realize that we are enough, because when we're in that space, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, that's enough. And we're recognizing it on a soul level. This is what my soul needs right now. I don't need a permission slip to do this. If I want, I think it's fantastic that your friend is instructing dancing. What a great way to share a passion and something that she loves doing. And she's really creating a legacy. I mean, I think a lot of us, when we have a skill or a gift or a talent, oftentimes we don't allow ourselves to bring it out, to let it shine. I mean, in an environment where you're teaching other people, she may find another group that she can collaborate with, and maybe whether it's a ballroom dancing class or a hip-hop class or whatever else, so many wonderful connections that can be made through things like that. I absolutely love it. And I think that, again, it goes into the idea of where we were speaking about the once. I'll begin when. That's sort of the waiting thing. But willingness is, I'm open now. I'm open to whatever the universe wants to bring me. All of this wonder, all of this magic, all of this incredible things that life has to offer. And that's it. And as you said, you enjoyed that moment in time where you sat on that mower and you did 4 acres. But now it's a different time in your life, and there's other things that you want to experience. And one of those is to experience life through the eyes of this beautiful soul, this dog that you brought into your life. Because there are so many new things that have opened up to you that perhaps you had forgotten how much you enjoyed it. And now, like you said, now you see him growing and he can be without a leash. I mean, that's kind of a great metaphor. Now he's got his own sovereignty. You took him up. He's got permission to explore his little world. And I know he catches geckos, and I know he loves his balls. But and he finds out what toys he enjoys playing with. I mean, I think that's sort of the same thing. I mean, even with myself, if I'm going to do a piece of art, there's certain mediums that I like to use. I used to do a lot of found object art, and so I would go to the flea markets and search out, I just love getting my hands in little watch parts and things, and I bought old forks that looked really interesting and broken frames, and I would do all these assemblage pieces. And I still have boxes of that stuff, but I don't really do that anymore. I enjoyed it. It was a season in my life. And now I do a different type of. But if I wanted to go back to that, I could. But it's just my choice at the moment.
That is true. And, do it without the guilt. You don't have any guilt over doing it because, we're one of the other things that's drummed into us is don't be a quitter. Don't be a quitter.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
When you choose to do something, don't stop doing it until you've mastered it or until you've had success. And you're like, well, what is that? Well, success is really just doing it and enjoying it. That's success. And there is no, you've got to do this till the end to some particular point where you've mastered it. There is no mastery in most things that you actually do because you're really good at, have the ability to master a couple of things in your life. But you're interested in a whole lot of things, a whole array of different types of things. And I had somebody that asked me the other day, how can I find more friends? And my question to them is, instead of saying, giving them some kind of answer about how you do, I just ask them a simple question. What do you like to do? What do you love? And what puts a smile on your face? I said, just go do that. You'll find friends because they'll be interested in the same thing that you're interested in. And commonality is the fastest way to make a friend. Having having things in common, finding out what you have in common with someone else. And so when I go to jazz concerts, you make friends in a heartbeat because everybody's there with a common interest. And there are thousands of people with common interests. And some friends that I've had for the last 10 or 15 years I met at jazz festivals because you find out that once they like something that you like, there are other things that they like that you like. Perhaps golf, perhaps other music, whatever it may be, eat food, you name it. But the idea of I'm going to tap into, I'm going to ask my external world to bring me something. No. You go inside and figure out what you like, what puts a smile on your face. Go do that. And you'll automatically, based on the vibrations that you're putting out, you'll attract other people who have the same interest as you. And even when you're engaging in that thing, you will have such joy because you'll be with, if it involves other people who have that same interest. So that's why pickleball's so explosive right now because, and golf is as explosive as it can be. And I'm sure there will be something else that comes up in the future, sporting-wise, or that people engage in. Dance. I mean, it's just everything. There's so many different things that you have in common with other people that there's no way in the world that you can't have a lot of friends. You have to understand, of course, that you're not controlling your external circumstances, the kind of friends you get, or how long you're with them. That's beyond your control, other than the decisions that you make about yourself. And that can be a little quagmire that people get into sometimes, thinking, I want this person to be my friend and want them to do everything that I want to do and go do these things. Well, they may not want to. It's like, how comfortable are you with yourself? How comfortable are you being alone? Are you, and when you're alone, what are you doing? Complaining about being alone, or are you working on discovering who you are?
Right.
Are you, and that's really where I spend time, is continuing to discover the things that I enjoy based on the tasks that I'm presented with, and then deciding, okay, I really kind of like that, but I decide when to do it, and if I don't want to do it today, it won't get done today. If I want to do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow if it comes up. So it's one of those things. My podcast is like that too. My other podcast, Life Moves, I don't do it as often, as regularly as this podcast, which is literally once a week, because we have radio, the show we're doing now, and we turn it into a podcast. So there's a regularity to it, which I actually very much enjoy. And I haven't really, come to think of it, enjoyed something like this for this period of time in years. Being on a regular schedule, it's so much fun. And the topics we talk about are so, and immersive. It's really fun. It's really, really a lot of fun. I have to tell you, it's a joy to be here. It's a joy to have this opportunity to explore the human spirit and what love is and how to connect to it, how to generate it inside of you, how to bring it out of you, the happiness, the joy, the fun. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And I'm enjoying every time we do this, every time we sit down. It's not a chore. It's a love.
I agree. I totally agree with you, Michael, because there are so many things that we begin and we may find. I love the fact that every time that we do a show, I'm left with things that I work on or that bring new doorways, and I just absolutely love it. There's so many gifts from the conversations that we have, and for any of our audience members, if you ever would have an opportunity to eavesdrop on a conversation that Michael and I have, even off the show, our conversations are a lot like this. We're constantly gifting each other these nuggets of wisdom or sharing things that open new doorways, and then we'll kind of, what did you think about this? And then it truly is. It's quite remarkable. It's wonderful to be able to find not just you, but all of the circle of people that we have brought in as guests on the show that share that same viewpoint. And for every audience member that takes the time to listen, we feel you. And we are always excited to bring new thoughts of what is coming forth. And I just wanted to address something, because what you had said about quitting is a very, very, very important thing to note, because you may take up something and it may not be your thing. And it's okay to say that it isn't, even though you may be in a big group of people. And I think that that's where a lot of the sovereignty is. It's about speaking honestly, being truthful with yourself. If you are truthful with yourself and you say, no, you know what, in my inner knowing, I'm just not feeling this, and I feel led to go somewhere else, you follow that. And you will start to notice these signs and these little things that kind of breadcrumb you to where you're meant to go next. And I think that even in that choosing not to continue, that's a small act of permission that you're giving yourself. I give myself permission to open a new doorway. I give myself permission to notice that there are a whole other type of restaurants. You might have joined a book club, and the selections of the particular book club are choosing are not your cup of tea. But you can find a new book club. You don't have to feel badly that you're not vibing with everybody. And you may still enjoy everybody's company, but you may not want to be in their book club, and that's okay. And I think that that's sort of allowing that idea that we give ourselves permission to recognize that my path is unique. Everybody's path is unique. Your path, even though we share so many different things in common, I will never be a golfer. And I can say that, well, I can say never, but it would take me a lot of time to be able to achieve the level. And I may find that in maybe 10 years that that's something I want to pursue. But at the moment, I don't have the time to devote to the game that I would need to become a good golfer. And I'm being honest with myself. And
Absolutely.
so instead I find other things that fulfill me and that I enjoy. And I can still have the same type of experiences that you do on the green and the same types of achievements. And then you and I get together and we share what the exciting things, like your hole-in-one and all the different things that unfold because of your golf game and the conversations and the people that you meet. It's a beautiful process.
It's true. You give yourself permission to disengage and to engage. And something that came to mind is that when you're letting other people down, it's this whole guilt trip that's thrown on you. Well, you're letting everybody else down. No, you're not. You're basically when you leave, somebody else will take your place. That's basically it. And we have to remember, most importantly, that the positive feelings and frequencies and thoughts that we generate when we engage in something that we really like, that tip-top positive energy that's being generated within us is absolutely essential for achieving our desires, for manifesting what we really want in life. It's like baking a cake. You have to have the positivity, the love for yourself and for the world. You have to have the fun and the joy and excitement that you feel. That high frequency energy is essential for basically succeeding at work, for being an awesome parent. It's for whatever desires that you'd like to accomplish, desires you have, whether it's accomplishment or not accomplishment. It doesn't really matter. Everybody wants something. Everybody desires something. And we have to understand that we push it away from us when we engage in things that have a lot of lower level frustration and worry kind of energy, fight and struggle energy. We're fighting to actually do something, to achieve something, and we don't feel good about it. And we have to wake up to the fact as quickly as possible that fight and struggle begets fight and struggle. It means that you're just pushing away that thing that you really want, that you really desire, that whether it's the success at whatever it is. If you really want to write a book and you're fighting and struggling to write a book, the best thing to do is to stop writing the book. Just go do something else. Go do something else that excites you, that brings you joy. And it may be something completely diametrically opposed to writing a book. It might be going out and taking a walk or participating in training for a marathon, whatever. Whatever that positive energy is, if it will generate the creativity and inspiration necessary, if the book is what you're supposed to do, it'll do it. I know lots of writers that they just struggle to write. The creativity is here and then it's not here because they're forcing it. Right? It's not something, creativity, inspiration are something you force. They come when you allow space for them to come in. You have to allow that space for it to happen, for that particular door to open. And that fun and joy and excitement in your relationships, in your friendships, that energy is what you take with you when you leave those friendships and relationships and go somewhere else. That's the energy that you bring, and it opens other doors. And it just one door here, and it begets another door opening, and then another one and another one. And so, fight and struggle is never the way. Leading in lack, never the way. Feeling that you lack any kind of ability. That the lack doesn't exist. It exists in our own minds. We don't lack anything. We just have to understand and discern what brings us joy and what doesn't. What, again, lights our fire and what doesn't. What lights us up from inside. Sticking with that, it makes everything else work. It's the oil that makes the engine run, right?
Truly.
It's the thread that goes through absolutely everything and makes everything come together the way that's supposed to come together. And I really don't any longer participate in things, and you don't want to. You don't want to participate in things that don't bring you joy, because when you focus on the opposite of joy, you get the opposite of joy. When your feelings that you're eliciting are the opposite of love, opposite of joy, opposite of empathy, compassion, and kindness, when they're the opposite of those things, that is what you are going to be manifesting in the next moment in your life. Those situations and circumstances that propagate that continue to multiply what you don't want, because you're focusing on the wrong thing, right? We sometimes, that was the whole not wanting to let go of something. Well, if it's creating angst and overwhelm and stress because you're trying to control external circumstances to be successful, you have to back off and realize that you can make a change. You can move in another direction. Another door will open for you, because now you're focused less on that and more. You've alleviated all the negative feelings. We get what we think about most. And if you're thinking about how you don't like something, then your world will continue to produce more of what you don't like.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that you brought up the door, because so many times we see a door, a possibility, and we're so focused on that one thing that we don't take a look around and realize there's hundreds of doors around us. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to open that door, and we think that we're waiting for somebody that has a key. They've got the key. But here's the secret. No one's coming with the key. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, it's your turn now, because it's always been your turn. It may not be that door, but if you give yourself permission to turn around to the left or to the right, or maybe do a whole 180, you may find the most magnificent place that you would have not even imagined could even have miracles and all kinds of wonderful things. It just unfold ready for you, because you're waiting in front of that one door. But if you allow yourself that moment to turn around and look at all of the beautiful things that are around you and the colors, and just notice and say, is this what I really want? I'm giving myself permission, and be willing to do that. I think that we give ourselves that. We claim our sovereignty. We make those choices, and we realize that that's when the magic happens. And it's the dream that you've been waiting for in that waiting room, waiting for somebody to come in and get you. But no, you have the ability to choose, and that's why I'm really grateful for this conversation. It's been so incredibly wonderful, Michael.
Yeah,
I have all of these.
Yeah, no, listen, you said it perfectly. We don't need to say anything more about it. Not the fact that it's the end of the show, but the fact is you said it absolutely. It was pristine. That is what this whole topic was about, and it's wonderful. I just love it when we get together like this and can have a great conversation about something that is so vitally important to every one of our listeners. And I hope you're getting it. I hope you found some nuggets in this conversation today that you can take to shift and change and evolve your own life and the way you feel about yourself. Hope so.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, because it's so true. The life that you've been longing for is right here. It's the life you were meant to live. And just
right here now.
Open your heart to love and connection. And when in doubt, peace out. Right, Michael?
I love that. Oh, that's a new one. When in doubt,
peace out. Yeah.
I love it.
Until next time.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And be in joy. When it does, peace out and always be in joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Until next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.